Hey, Greenlight Ecosystem crew. This is Chris, your creative career coach here. So listen, this is really take three of this episode because of some technical difficulties that I've had over the last couple of days, which is why you haven't heard from me in a couple of days. So just want to let y'all know that it is not for lack of trying, that this episode is a little bit behind. So trying to do this every single day as part of an effort to just be consistent with the distribution wing of my personal business, getting myself out there and talking to folks and engaging with folks who may be interested in my experience and what I have to offer. So yeah, so today is hopefully the day that this episode gets out there, and it was my attempt to talk a little bit about mentorship. So mentorship to me has been a really important opportunity, both on the receiving end and on the giving end. So a couple of days ago, I started mentoring a young man named Farid, who was sent to me through the Reimagine program in Atlanta. Reimagine is a great organization. They provide creative education around film and television and photography for young folks who are looking to add that skill to their quiver. And I've had the opportunity to mentor one other student of theirs. So this is number two for me, and I'm very excited because this young man in particular is clearly very ambitious, has a great head on his shoulders, really focused, and I think has an opportunity to be really successful in the industry by his own metrics. So we had a great discussion the other day, our first meeting, and through this mentorship program, we meet about once a month for, I believe, about 6 months. And it was really great. It was exciting to learn a little bit about him. He's, he's a really talented photographer, I think, and he's a talented editor as well. And he's looking to become a professional editor and director and is seeking opportunities to make inroads into the industry. So we talk a little bit about his background and his goals, and then a little bit about my experience and hopefully what I can offer him through this mentorship. And I think for me, it's always a give and take in the sense that I try to give as much as I can in terms of just my experience, my knowledge, my skill set as a filmmaker, the technical aspects of cinematography, editing, directing, all of that. But then also just the lessons learned over the almost 20 years now of experience working in the film industry in various capacities. I started out as a camera assistant. Even before that, I started out as a PA and then worked my way up into the camera department and then did some work in the grip and electric department and then started shooting and directing my own projects and then in commercial projects. And now I live between Atlanta and Italy, directing in both countries. So being able to kind of validate, even for myself, that experience by just talking it out with somebody is extremely valuable. It just gives the opportunity to take a look in the mirror, to reflect on the things that I have accomplished, uh, to reflect on the people that I've had the opportunity to work with, people like Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay. I got to film Barack and Michelle Obama on a couple of separate occasions. I worked with Sesame Street. I've directed and shot spots for Walmart and Sprite and various big corporations, Google. So it's the kind of thing that, it's great to remind yourself every now and again of what you've actually done and be proud of it with humility. So just sharing a little bit about myself with somebody to give them hopefully a little spark of inspiration about what is possible for them to accomplish feels really nice. But then also to learn from him about what people from his generation are looking to as platforms and pathways to find their own way through this industry. He talked to me about the fact that he's a streamer. So he's got a Twitch channel that he streams on. He posts his videos up on YouTube, on Instagram and TikTok. And, he's doing all of the analytics himself of how these platforms can work for him, how he generates and cultivates an audience on all these platforms, which platforms are easier or better for monetization. These are all things that I feel like are really extremely valuable. This knowledge is very valuable right now in the current landscape of media. So these are things that I would not have been trained on, of course, at when I was his age, going into film and media 20 years ago. So that exchange of ideas, that exchange of experience is really valuable also for me. So I love having the opportunity to talk to folks who are younger than me, who are at an earlier stage in their career, to figure out what is happening in media below kind of the radar of people that like myself who've been in it a little bit longer and have a different type of training and have a different experience with the technology that is out there and available now, as much as I try to be kind of hip to it all. So he's a very cool guy. He's a very talented young man. So I'm excited to continue on this journey with him and watch him grow and watch him learn. And we talked about the 4 pillars of the Greenlight ecosystem that I hope will inspire him to kind of take the reins even further of his career at this early stage. We talked through the vision portion, describing how important it is to have an understanding of who you are and what you really want at the deepest level, to dedicate time to that effort, to whether it's through meditation or just reading and taking in media and having an understanding of what your tastes are and kind of cultivating your taste and being honest about it with yourself. What are the things that actually drive you? What are the things that you're actually passionate about, regardless of the potential for financial gain? If you weren't doing something for somebody else, what would you want to do for yourself that you would not get tired of? What is that calling for you? And then once you've kind of developed that, then you start to figure out how to turn that into an engine for economic growth, right? So we talked about the crew engine, meaning how do we develop relationships with people with intention? How do we maintain and cultivate relationships? How do we build partnerships with people? How do we find mentors that can help us figure out our way through our career and our life path? And how do we set up that process as something that we can do consistently? Whether it's setting reminders for yourself to reach out to certain people, keeping a list, even a spreadsheet of cold email reach outs that you've done so that you know that, after 3 or 4 months, you want to reach back out to these folks. You maintain a list of other contact information, all that kind of stuff. It just makes it easier for you to be able to I think, take control of these types of things when you are more intentional about it and you have real practical tools to do that. And then we talked about the distribution part, which I think, especially his generation has a better handle on than folks in my generation or older, which is just about networking marketing, putting yourself out there, your content out there, and analyzing how it's doing. I think that's something that is a real strength for this generation that's coming up now. And then, of course, we talked about the financial piece, and this is the piece that I tried to impress upon him the most because I think it is the really the most underrated or underdeveloped engine for creatives, especially in the sense that being a creative is always challenging in terms of making a career, a sustainable career, right? So I think the idea I tried to impart upon him the most was the idea that you should be separating your revenue and your assets from your your passion and your vision, right? They should be divorced from one another in terms of making sure that you have a recurring revenue stream that allows you to maintain your baseline, your everyday life expenses, so that you're not worried about where your rent money is coming from, and then allowing yourself to be able to focus the rest of your energy on the creative endeavors, because you can't really do both at the same time successfully, in my experience. When you are worried about money, you cannot be creative. The mind can only juggle one of those two things successfully at a time. Survival mode is not a great atmosphere or environment for creativity. So we talked about setting up specific times, a specific schedule for when to focus on developing those assets, those things that are going to make money while you sleep, those things that are going to allow you to have that financial cushion that have nothing to do necessarily with your art. And then making sure that those things are, growing, whether it's, even if it's slow growth, that's okay, especially if you're in your early 20s. Slow growth is still growth. And then you look, 10 years down the line. And of course, once that growth has shown up as something that now gives you so much more freedom, you'll be thanking yourself, the you from 10 years ago who made those little investments. So we talked about things like, if you have a checking account, making sure that you have a savings account that's open as well, and having an account that allows you to round up your regular expenses into that savings account. For example, the bank that I use, they have a feature that, say I spend $2.50 on something. That extra 50 cents, they'll round it up to $3, and the extra 50 cents gets automatically deducted from the checking account and goes into my savings account. All right. So it's a roundup, a very simple to set up process that saves you money over time without you having to think about it, without you having to do anything actively. And you can do that with other types of accounts, right? So Acorns, for example, is another app that I use. That's a financial app that invests in the stock markets. You can create an IRA through them, and it applies the same thing. You connect it to your spending accounts, and then it rounds up, and you can even multiply those roundups. So let's say you spend 250 on something, it can take that 50 cents and multiply it by 3 or by 5 or by 10. So, instead of rounding up 50 cents, it's now rounding up $5 and putting that into your investment account. Again, without you having to think about it, without you having to take action every single time. And then, you check that account once a month even, and you see how much it compounds. And then again, over time, over years, that money is there providing you a real cushion when you need it, or whether you need it or not, and giving you a sense of comfort and freedom to know that, okay, I'm investing in myself, and this is something that can help me provide that financial security, and can turn into even bigger investments into assets like buying a house, right? Or buying stock, or something similar to that. So it's really important, I think, to at an early age, at an early stage in your life, to really think about that financial aspect, because I wish I had that financial education, that financial literacy at that early stage in my life. I'd be in a very different position than I am right now. And so the more I can impart that onto younger folks, the better. And he clearly already has a pretty solid idea of some of these financial tools and his financial goals, whether it's getting out of debt or creating some assets for himself, whether it's writing books, because he's a novelist as well. So we talked about the idea of owning your own IP, creating something that is yours that can be sold into something that turns into residuals and makes more money while you sleep. So things like that, I think, were great to hear. It's exciting and inspiring to hear that this generation is so much more savvy, I think, than at least I was at that age. I won't speak for my entire generation, but yeah, I'm excited to see and to continue to learn from him, and just trade experiences and knowledge, because it means a lot to me to have the opportunity to be entrusted with that responsibility of just helping guide a young soul through this life. So mentorship has always been something that I've tried to embrace, and you're never too old to gain a mentor, right? It doesn't matter how much money you've made, or how much experience you've gained. You can always learn more. So finding somebody who can mentor you in the various aspects of your life, you don't only have to find a mentor for your career. It's a great idea to find a mentor who's solely going to be focused on helping you with that financial piece, or solely going to be helping you with the distribution part. Somebody who's extremely good at just getting their name out there, somebody who's great at marketing themselves. How exactly do they go about doing that? Somebody who's great at networking. Their whole mission in life is to connect with people and connect other people to each other. find a mentor who's excellent at that. Somebody who's, a guru at just discovering the internal parts of themselves, doing that introspection. So yeah, I think the more mentors you can find, the better. And then never be afraid to be a mentor yourself. Because I think one of the issues that plagues a lot of creatives is this imposter syndrome, this feeling that you're not worthy of being seen as an artist or being seen as talented or experienced or wise or knowledgeable or skilled. So these things can prevent you from taking on the task of wanting to mentor somebody, and that shouldn't be the case. You are worthy of providing your wisdom, your experience, because it is different from somebody else's. And you never know what gem is going to be able to light somebody up and be something that they've never heard before. So I think mentorship is the way to go anytime you have the opportunity. So that's it for today. Drop me a comment about your mentorship experience, whether you've been mentored or you've been a mentor to someone else. What has been the strongest advice, the most valuable advice that a mentor has given you? And yeah, let's share our experiences. So thanks so much for joining me today. We will see you next time, and let's get to work.